Well, it's been less than 24 hours, of course, since this shocking attack in Moscow. We have some updates on what exactly has been going on in the last few hours. Authorities have confirmed they've detained 11 people in connection with this attack. Four of those are reported to have been the attackers inside Crocus City Hall. There was a total, reports say, of five attackers. That potentially leaves one more unaccounted for. But we understand that four have been taken in for questioning. They were stopped in a car on the western border of Russia in the Bryansk region, which borders Ukraine. And in the last few minutes, security forces, media reports in Russia citing security forces have said they intended to cross the Russian border into Ukraine, and they allegedly had ties to Ukrainian intelligence. That's coming from Russian media reports, as I say, citing the secret services. Now, a lot of reports circulated in the aftermath of this attack saying that ISIS, or branch of ISIS rather, had claimed responsibility for this attack. The Russian media were very quick to downplay those claims, but they appear to have been backed up by Western officials at this point. So it remains to be seen exactly what the motives of these attackers were, if they were affiliated indeed with this terrorist organization, and of course, what nationality they are as well, what passports they held, because initially media reports say they found Tajik passports in the car. Tajik officials, the Tajik embassy, was very quick to deny that. They said, "We've received no official requests from Russian authorities. Let's stick to official information." So obviously, as that investigation carries on, it's very important to sift through potentially unreliable information that's coming through and what is coming through from the official authorities.
Yeah, and the official authorities, but we have yet to hear from Russia's president. Meanwhile, Daniel, there are a lot of images and messages circulating on social media. This is obviously something the city, the country is talking about. What are some of the reactions that you've been following?
Well, Moscow is a city very much grieving this morning. People are very much in shock. On the billboards that usually see advertising products or films all over the city, they're all gone. The digital billboards, all you can see is one word: we're grieving. A candle and the date of yesterday's attack. Medics, hospitals have said hundreds of people have turned up this morning to donate blood for the victims of this attack, though they say there is enough blood to go around, but people still keep coming and coming. There's a real sense of grief, as I say, in the city this morning. The Moscow mayor, Sergei Sobyanin, has cancelled public gatherings, has cancelled sports events. The Russian national football team has cancelled their friendly match with Paraguay. There's an increased security presence on the streets. That was particularly strong yesterday on the roads as well. I was stopped by road police as I made my way home for extra checks. There's increased security presence at transport hubs because of the risk in these sorts of cases of potential copycat follow-up attacks. So very much a heavy mood in Moscow this morning, and an increased security presence to reassure people here in the city.
Paris had the Bataclan concert hall attacks back in 2015. In the aftermath of that, the witnesses, the survivors, spoke about a lot of the trauma they experienced during that attack. The people who made it outside of this, who survived this attack in Moscow, what have they been saying about what they witnessed?
Well, very many parallels with the tragic events in the Bataclan, as you rightly say. The witnesses have been giving some really harrowing testimony of what happened there in this attack. These shooters went in intent to kill as many people as possible. They were using automatic weapons. They set the theater on fire. People reported breaking windows to try to get out. They reported running around the theater, hiding wherever they could, in changing rooms, in toilets, in baby changing rooms. Tragically, many people, according to authorities, actually died from smoke inhalation when the fire spread as they tried to hide from these killers. People say they were trying to smash windows, trying to escape to the subway. These people were being shot at point blank range in cold blood in entire groups with automatic weapons. The phone signal was very poor in Moscow yesterday. The Wi-Fi signal was very poor, so people couldn't contact loved ones. People couldn't understand what was going on. They didn't know if their families and friends were alive or not. This was very much a shocking event for Moscow and for Russia as well. And no doubt we'll be hearing more of those very harrowing testimonies as the investigation continues.
Yeah, and there are certainly going to be some questions about intelligence failures, I think. The White House confirmed that it had warned Russia earlier this month about IS possibly targeting large gatherings in Moscow. Daniel, how rare is an attack like this in a country whose security and intelligence apparatuses have so much power?
Well, Russia's suffered its fair share of terror in its history. It suffered some of the most high-profile attacks: the Beslan school siege, the Nordos theater siege, the jet being brought down over the Sinai, the bombings in the St. Petersburg metro. Those mainly, though, were nigh on 20 years ago. In recent times, Russia has pretty successfully tackled its terrorism problem, despite, of course, its involvement in Syria and its fight against terrorist groups there. So this is an unusually violent terrorist attack for Russia. Having said that, though, in the lead up to to this particular attack, there were several incidents reported in March. Security services say they liquidated half a dozen ISIS-affiliated terrorists in the Caucasus in early March. They say they prevented an attack on a synagogue. They say they detained a terrorist commander. These were all events in the lead up to this attack. And as you say, authorities in Russia, Moscow authorities, officials have pointed to those warnings by Western embassies, the US embassy, UK embassy, for people to avoid large public gatherings. And they've questioned as to why these embassies allegedly did not share that information. Now, Western officials have said we did share that information, and media reports have since said here in Russia that indeed some information was shared, it just was not specific. So there's a lot of uncertainty about exactly what was shared, to what extent that was shared, how many details they were, and how, as you say, this was allowed to happen at a time when the country is embroiled in conflict, at a time when security is on a high level, there's a lot of security everywhere. How exactly this could have happened, and no doubt more information will come out in the coming hours and days about that.
Daniel, thank you very much. Daniel Hawkins.